Hello and welcome back to another day of summer learning. Today, we're going to just dive on in because we already know our place value for what's in front of the decimal and what's behind the decimal. And it's going to come into play, and you're going to hear that same vocabulary as I answer these questions and you follow along. Max has 248 pennies. How many whole dollars does Max have? What fraction of a dollar is left over? Now, they gave us a model of what 248 pennies would look like. And we know with money, you have to have a certain amount of pennies to make a whole dollar. And they are representing that using the base 10 blocks. They gave us these questions, and from our past videos and working on these worksheets, these are questions that are given to us in the very beginning, but the work following them will help us answer them in the end. So let's see what we can do. A, how many pennies are in $1? Like I just said, we have to have a certain amount of pennies to make a dollar. If you can think back on your prior knowledge with using money or any play money, you would know 100 pennies equals $1. Also, in this model they gave us, they show us we have a hole because the entire hundreds base 10 block is filled up. So I know there's 100 tiny little squares, and each little square represents a penny. So that means 100 pennies. So I'm going to put 100. B, how many whole dollars can you make with 248 pennies? How many cents are left over? Okay, this is the same question they just gave us. So we got to figure out, how many whole dollars do I have with 248 pennies? Well, like I said in A, we have one whole if it's entirely shaded. So I look at my next model. That one's shaded as well, so I'm going to put a number 2. So that means I have 2 whole dollars so far. And then I look at the third one, and it's not completely shaded in because it is not a whole dollar. So I'm going to put 2 whole dollars. But I'm not done because I have another question. How many cents are left over? Well, I always say this is my leftovers, and this is the reason why. Because they're always going to ask you questions that have leftover within it. So I know I have my 2 wholes, and now I need to look at my leftovers. So I'm going to go ahead and skip count because I know one row is 10. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48. So I have 48 left over. 48 cents left over. C, 1 cent is equivalent to what fraction of a dollar? Okay, we're going to go back and look at just one of these squares. This is 1 out of 100 tiny little squares. So my answer is going to be 1 over 100, or you can look at it as 1/100ths. Now that we know what the fraction looks like for 1 cent within a dollar, we're going to look at D and see if we can answer this question. If 1 cent is 1/100th of a dollar, what fraction of a dollar is 48 cents? I'm going to look back at this model they gave us, and we already put in like a little squiggly to represent 1 cent out of an entire dollar. But now we need to look at the rest of these shaded in squares. We've already counted them and we got 48. So we know our fraction is going to be 48 in the numerator because that's not the total amount of cents that make a dollar. That is just strictly what I have shaded in my leftover. My denominator, though, like I just said, that is what makes our whole dollar. And to make that whole dollar, we need 100 cents. So 100 pennies. So 100 is going to be in my denominator. So my fraction is going to be 48 over 100, which you can also say as 48 hundredths of a dollar. E, how do you write this amount of whole dollars and fraction of a dollar as a mixed number? Okay, so I had a great question during our virtual meeting this past Friday, and I mentioned mixed numbers, and nobody could figure out what it was called until I said it, and they're like, oh, that's the one with like the big number somewhere in there. Yes, it's a whole number with a fraction. And some of you are probably like, wait, what's a mixed number again? What is she talking about? As soon as you see it, I think a light bulb will go off and you're going to go, oh my gosh, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen these before. Today I'm going to break it down and kind of get you thinking about mixed numbers. So we're looking back at our model, and up above, I put 1 and 2, because remember, at the very beginning, I said, oh, I have 2 whole dollars so far. So I'm going to go ahead and just write a 2, because that's my 2 wholes. So 2 whole dollars, and I already know my leftovers, because it's 48 cents, and in D, we already wrote what 48 cents looks like within a dollar as a fraction. So I'm going to go ahead and put that information right next to it. 48 over 100. That is what a mixed number looks like. And this mixed number represents $2.48. F. How do you write $2.48 using the money sign? Okay, so because we've already put the connection between money and decimals, this should be pretty easy, because you could clearly walk into any store or even look on the back of any packaging that has how much that item is worth, and you would see there's a decimal involved with it. So you have your $2, your 2 wholes. This is in the ones place because it's a whole number. Everything behind the decimal is not a whole number. That is my leftover. And I clearly know my leftover is 48 cents. So I put 48. And if, let's say you were given just this, $2.48, and they ask for you to put it into a fraction, you're going to think, oh, this is in front of the decimal, so that's my whole number, and it's in the ones place. So you have your whole, it's going before your fraction. 48 cents. This is the hundredths place value, so you know there's going to be 100 underneath 48.